San Diego is nicknamed America's finest city. While not everyone would agree, one could not be faulted for believing in the veracity of that moniker. You may even find yourself convinced after this virtual tour, which will begin at the postcard-worthy San Diego Bay. The bay is home to Naval Base San Diego, the principal home base of the Pacific Fleet. The bay is surrounded by Coronado Island and Point Loma to the west, and downtown San Diego to the east. Coronado is technically speaking a tide island, connected to the mainland by a tombolo, or narrow stretch of beach, called the Silver Strand. It is also connected to downtown San Diego by the photogenic Coronado Bridge. The newest downtown attraction is the Rady Shell. The music venue opened in August of 2021 and boasts a conch shell design with gently sloped seating and state-of-the-art acoustics. The venue is the new summer home of the San Diego Symphony, but will also feature a variety of other artists. If you check the schedule, you can find symphony rehearsal times that you can attend free of charge. For the unscrupulous penny pinchers out there, there are several waterfront benches that sit a mere 20 feet from the expensive stagefront tables but lie outside the boundary of the theater. San Diego Padres fans can score a spectacular view of the Coronado Bridge, the Convention Center, and the downtown trolley hub from the back of Petco Park when taking a break from watching the game to get snacks or a cold craft beer. After all, San Diego may not be the baseball capital of America, but it is the craft brew capital. If you are in the mood for a relaxing stroll, you can't go wrong choosing the Embarcadero. With long stretches of car-free, hill-free paths with readily available concession stands, what could be better? The Embarcadero also offers activities like fishing, biking, basketball courts, exercise stations, and kite flying. If you have a fascination with big ships, little ships, sailboats, or anything else that floats on the water, San Diego Bay is the place for you. You can be a spectator from any number of harbor yacht cruises, amphibious vehicle tours, or even mega powerboat thrill rides. The view from the water is the best place to take in the wide variety of naval vessels in the Pacific Fleet, including the USNS Mercy Hospital ship, one of 3 stealthy Zumwalt-class destroyers, and massive nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. For more active watergoers, the bay is an ideal place for sailing, powerboating, jet skiing, paddleboarding, windsurfing, and water skiing. The Coronado Bridge is one of the most recognizable landmarks in San Diego, adorning many postcards of the city. The bridge was opened in 1969 while the city was celebrating the 200th anniversary of its founding. Due to its height, narrow width, and curving arc, the bridge can be a nemesis for those with a fear of heights. Unfortunately, these same attributes make the bridge attractive to those who want to end it all, with 14 to 19 people a year doing just that. The height and curve of the bridge are not arbitrary design aesthetics. The 200-foot clearance at its highest point is necessary for the passage of an empty aircraft carrier. The curve in the bridge is present to allow it to gradually reach its maximal height while maintaining a grade that is manageable by cars. Seaport Village is a bustling downtown destination featuring over 50 shops, 17 eateries, and 4 bayside restaurants. The many freestanding buildings in Seaport Village span a variety of architectural styles, including Victorian and traditional Spanish. The pedestrian-friendly marketplace was opened in 1980 and is built on landfill from the dredging of San Diego Bay. The perimeter of Seaport Village is a quarter-mile slate boardwalk connecting the San Diego Convention Center, Marriott Marina Resort, and the Manchester Grand Hyatt Hotel. The boardwalk extends past Seaport Village to snake its way up the waterfront, past the Midway Aircraft Carrier Museum and other waterfront attractions before passing the airport and dead-ending in Point Loma. Take your culinary pick from the numerous casual eateries, ice cream and snack shops, and even fine dining options dotted throughout Seaport Village, most having outstanding views of the water. The restaurants are great for people watching or for being watched by people. The San Diego Pier Cafe, opened in 1980, is one of the most recognizable restaurants in Seaport Village, serving traditional New England-style seafood. The interior of Seaport Village is lined with 4 miles of cobblestone paths winding through vintage buildings, ponds, bridges, coffee shops, and unique shopping opportunities. Plans are underway for a $2.5 billion remodel and reimagining of Seaport Village. The project was approved 4 years ago, but is moving forward on California time, with environmental reviews not due for completion until 2022, and construction not due to begin until 2025. I suspect many people would be just fine waiting and keeping the old, quaint Seaport Village just the way it is for the foreseeable future. Just across the parking lot from Seaport Village is the headquarters, one of the newer downtown eating, dining, and entertainment destinations. The iconic building, completed in 1939, is the former headquarters of the San Diego Police Department, hence the name. The historic building is a dazzling mix of Spanish, Mediterranean, Pueblo, and classical revival-style architecture. The location served as the police headquarters until 1987, after which it went dormant, later in 1998 being designated a National Historic Landmark. Thankfully, the vacant building was renovated by a retail developer, opening as the headquarters in 2013. The jail cells are still intact, serving as the public restrooms. location is popular for diners, but even more so for dancers who come out in the day and stay long into the evening to dance salsa. Proceeding north from the Seaport Village boardwalk, we make our way up the waterfront to the Broadway Pier and cruise ship terminals. This vibrant area is always full of locals as well as tourists from all over the world. Maritime enthusiasts can delight in the abundance of functioning and historic boats and ships that line this section of the waterfront. This includes the magnificent Midway Aircraft Carrier Museum, which is a must-see for anyone interested in military history. The waterfront is lined with public art, including small sculptures spaced at regular intervals, several war memorials, and even a massive rendition of the famous photo of the Navy sailor kissing a woman in Times Square. The waterfront is a great place to take a drive and soak in the scenery. This construction site was originally slated to be one of California's most stunning and luxurious destinations, but was recently sold off with plans to be a life science research facility. Continuing up the waterfront, we pass the new Portside Pier complex that opened in 2020 and features restaurants to please any palate and price point. We then arrive at the Star of India, an iron-hulled sailing ship built in 1863. The ship is part of the San Diego Maritime Museum, which also includes the HMS Surprise, the tall ship used in the Russell Crowe movie Master and Commander. From the opposite side of the bay, we can see the stealth-guided missile destroyer USS Zumwalt returning to port. If you plan a visit to San Diego, Balboa Park must be on your itinerary. If you live in San Diego, visiting should be part of your regular routine. Drivers and pedestrians can enter the park across the Cabrillo Bridge, the first cantilevered multi-arch bridge built in Southern California. After crossing the bridge, we pass by the ornate California building and tower, home to the Museum of Us, formerly the Museum of Man. Both the Cabrillo Bridge and the California building were built in 1915 for the World's Fair that took place in San Diego. This inlet opens into the grand Plaza de Panama, the central plaza of the park. The plaza features a central fountain and is adorned with statues and public art and surrounded by art museums including the San Diego Museum of Art, the Mingei, and the Timken Museums. The plaza is also surrounded by restaurants including the Prado, Panama 66, and a new cafe and bar that is just opening in the newly renovated Mingei International Museum of Folk Art and Design. The plaza also hosts a market to purchase clothing, crafts, and a variety of other cultural products. During the summer, the plaza also hosts food truck Fridays and other events. The Alcazar Garden, nestled between the back of the Mingei and the Museum of Us, is a great place to relax, take photos, or view the California Tower. Another unique feature of Balboa Park is the Spreckels Organ Pavilion, just south of the Plaza de Panama. The Spreckels organ is the largest fully outdoor organ in the world. The organ lies dormant during the week but comes alive for concerts of organ music on Sundays. Even when silent, the pavilion, with its ornate Italian Renaissance design, attracts a continuous stream of people doing photo shoots or simply lounging about. Just to the west of the Plaza de Panama sits the Botanical Garden and Lily Pond, a popular location to take in the stunning beauty of the park. The Botanical Garden building and Lily Pond are just some of the many beautiful gardens in Balboa Park, including the Rose and Desert Gardens, as well as the Japanese Friendship Garden and the Alcazar Garden, all of which we will visit on this tour. The Casa del Prado and the adjacent Casa del Prado Theater are just some of the many buildings that give Balboa Park its distinct character. Many of these buildings, including the Casa del Prado, were originally built for the World's Fair as temporary structures of wood and plaster, only to be reconstructed as permanent structures at a much later date. Infrequent visitors to the park may not be aware that these buildings house a variety of activities and organizations, including youth organizations, the Park and Recreation Dance Program, and the San Diego Botanical Garden Foundation and Library. Another section of the park, often missed by non-park aficionados, is the Spanish Village Art Center. This colorful area sits in the northeast portion of the park between the San Diego Zoo, which we will visit shortly, and the Natural History Museum. The Art Village is supported by local artists and artisans, including painters, metallurgists, glass blowers, jewelry makers, ceramic artists, and more. They share their work with the public by workshops, displays, and sale of their works. Theater is one of the many activities one can enjoy in Balboa Park. One of the many performance venues is the Old Globe Theatre, built in 1935 and modeled after Shakespeare's Old Globe in London. The theater is home to acclaimed artists and directors and received a Tony Award in 1984 for Outstanding Regional Theater for its contribution to the art. The Old Globe is adjacent to the Museum of Us on the west end of the park and directly across from the Alcazar Garden. Balboa Park boasts 17 museums and cultural institutions. These include multiple art museums, an aerospace museum, an automotive museum, a train museum, a science center, a natural history museum, and of course, much more. On this tour, we will visit one of the museums, the Mingei International Museum. The Mingei just reopened Labor Day weekend 2021 after 2 years of renovations. The museum features cultural arts and crafts from all over the world. The museum has a powerful message that art does not need to be expensive or exclusive. Some of the most beautiful art in the world is made with inexpensive, everyday materials by people with no name. In fact, the museum highlights that none of its amazing displays of art are identified by the artist who created them. A quote from one of the displays states that art and money should never be mentioned at the same time. This captivating work of art from India depicting a bride and wedding party is made entirely of paper mache, indicating that even the most beautiful art can be made from humble materials. If we cross the bridge by the Natural History Museum and cross over Park Avenue, we will find ourselves in an expanse of splendid gardens that many park visitors do not know is there. The gardens include the lush rose garden and the native-themed desert garden. The Inez Grant Parker Memorial Garden blossoms between March and December each year. Rose aficionados can appreciate over 1,600 roses of 130 different varieties. The garden is tended by the volunteer Balboa Park Rose Garden Corps. The Desert Garden, contiguous with the Rose Garden, was established in 1976. It features 1,300 succulents and drought-resistant plants from around the world. The plants in the Desert Garden come in a wide variety of dramatic shapes, fascinating to see even when they are not flowering. The best time to visit the Japanese Friendship Garden in Balboa Park is during the Cherry Blossom Festival each March. This is when you will see the cherry blossoms in their full glory. The garden is just south and east of the Plaza de Panama, descending down winding paths into a 12-acre canyon cultivated in the Japanese garden style. The garden was many years in the making. It's an expression of friendship between San Diego and its Japanese sister city, Yokohama. The garden fuses traditional Japanese elements of elegance and simplicity with the native San Diego landscape and vegetation. In addition to the cherry blossom trees and other plants, the garden also features koi ponds, traditional Japanese-style buildings, and a stream that flows lengthwise across the lower level. You may have thought there couldn't be any more to Balboa Park, but you would be wrong. The world-famous San Diego Zoo encompasses the entire north end of the massive park. The zoo is 100 acres in size and is known for its wide open spaces and naturalistic habitats, which were even featured in the DreamWorks cartoon Madagascar. Some of the most enjoyable parts of the zoo are the mini aviaries, where you can linger around while birds go about their daily business just feet from your head. This is one of the newest aviaries in the Africa Rock section of the park. Some birds, particularly the flamingos, don't require an aviary and are located in different habitats around the zoo. You may occasionally also come across a wild peacock wandering across the paths of Balboa Park. The peacock does not belong to the park, but it's a frequent visitor. The zoo is well known for its conservation efforts, working to preserve severely endangered species all over the world. Traveling up the coast about 13 miles from downtown San Diego, we arrive in La Jolla, an upscale area with lavish homes and beautiful coastline. The La Jolla Cove, sitting just beneath La Jolla Village, is a popular tourist spot on account of its beautiful coastline, panoramic views, and abundant wildlife. Pelicans and other seabirds dot the cliffs above the beach in the hundreds. The water is speckled with kayaks, snorkelers, and paddleboarders. The rocky shoreline provides an interesting landscape full of caves and other nooks and crannies to explore for the adventurous. In the rocky tide pools, you can find sea life up close like anemones and crabs. Another favorite activity is watching the seals, who have their own dedicated section of beach and swim amongst the snorkelers and kayakers. There are a number of ways to descend from the village down to the cove, down restaurant and shop-lined streets or down stairs nestled between them. La Jolla Cove is a fantastic destination to visit, but don't expect easy or inexpensive parking. Walking up one of the steeply sloped streets, we can get a sample of some of the many restaurants, shops, and markets that pepper the seaside village. Prospect Street, running parallel to and above the cove, is the La Jolla equivalent of Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. Pricey hotels are available for travelers of means. Upscale shops and galleries are also a staple on each block. One of the most popular long-standing restaurants in the village is George's at the Cove, with breathtaking views from the upstairs deck. If you partake in any of the fun activities available at the Cove, you probably won't regret the traffic and parking afterwards. We have seen some views already looking toward Coronado Island. Now we will travel to the island and experience its beauty directly. We begin at Coronado Beach on the west side of the island. Coronado Beach is the location of the iconic Hotel Del Coronado, founded in 1888 by Elisha Babcock and Hampton Story. After discovering the beauty of the island, they decided to buy it and build a hotel that would dazzle the entire Western world. And so it has. Hotel construction was funded by sale of lots of land on the previously barren island. The hotel was one of the largest buildings at the time to have electricity and was considered a technological marvel. The hotel is featured prominently in the 1959 Marilyn Monroe comedy, Some Like It Hot. The beach is relatively quiet during the winter, as seen here, but is thriving with life during the warmer months. But no time is a bad time to come to the Hotel Del. In the distance we see Point Loma, a peninsula arching around from the mainland, protecting San Diego Bay and Coronado Island, which lies between Point Loma and downtown San Diego. Artistic sand castles are always present to greet you during your visit to the beach and to the hotel. These creations are the work of the Sandcastle Man, Bill Pavlaka. On the opposite side of the island, across from downtown San Diego, lies the Coronado Ferry Landing. The ferry landing is a popular hangout. People come for fine dining at restaurants like Payo's or Il Fornaio, or casual eats like pizza and barbecue. The ferry landing is absolutely one of the best spots to appreciate the view of downtown San Diego, as well as the ever-present activities in the bay. In addition to restaurants, the ferry landing is also a fun place for shopping, with all of the stores simulating the rooftop design of the Hotel Del, connecting the theme of the east and west sides of the island. During the summer, the ferry landing features live music every Saturday and Sunday. Being so closely tied to the military, Coronado residents are proud and patriotic. We saw the tip of Point Loma from the vantage point of Coronado Beach. Now we will travel to the tip at the Cabrillo National Monument and Lighthouse. The monument commemorates the landing of Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo in San Diego in 1542. Cabrillo's landing marked the first time a European had come to the shores of the west coast of what is now the United States. The Visitor Center details much of the early history of San Diego and, of course, has stunning views of the bay and downtown. From this overlook, we can see the northern part of Coronado Island, the location of North Island Naval Station. Beneath the cliffs from where the monument and lighthouse overlook the bay, we travel down to the Cabrillo Tide Pools at the cliff's base. It is always best to check online to find the timing of low tide before heading out to the tide pools. This will give you the maximal amount of accessible shoreline to walk around and look for anemones, crabs, and other sea life. You may even find an octopus. We will end our San Diego journey with a descent down to the stone shoreline of Ponto Beach in North County, San Diego. I hope you have enjoyed this tour around the San Diego area. If you haven't been to San Diego yet, it is a worthwhile visit. If you live in San Diego, you may want to take more advantage of what it has to offer. Thanks for watching.